Welcome back to For the Love of Men podcast. My name is Courtney Shan, and I'm hosting with my dear friend, Brianna Mosher.
Hello.
The intention of the show is to bring together men and women to create healthy, polarized relationship dynamics by learning how to honor each other's natural, masculine, and feminine energetic core. As our follow-up from last week's episode, we are moving into dating territory as the empowered, feminine energy. Before we dive in, I want to introduce who we are, what we do, and then we can dive into this content because, as always, I'm excited to bring it.
Me too.
Bri, tell my friends who you are, what you do.
Yes. You'll have to forgive me. I'm still working through a cold, same as last week's episode. So the sniffles and the coughs, I apologize in advance. My work in the world is helping really high-achieving, driven women embrace their feminine energy and break toxic dating cycles, if you will, start attracting in healthier, more empowered masculine partners, as well as sex, love, and intimacy work. I find that a lot of women who are very comfortable in their masculine and not so much in their feminine, even when feminine feels more authentic, often struggle to come alive inside their body and embrace their pleasure. I feel like that's a big part of divine feminine energy, so I often work with women on that as well as deep trauma healing work. It's another driver that keeps women in this protective shield. So that's my work in the world. Help you have more pleasure, more love, more confidence, more peace. That's all I do.
Genius.
Courtney, your work is similar but different. We always say.
Yes. We both work from the body up. I think that is the overlap, and bringing a lot of generational awareness to your trauma healing is what allows you to move forward in a way that feels more authentic to you and kind of frees you from the way that you've been operating in the past. So I work with men and women, mostly men at this point, to embody more of that masculine energy that gives you the confidence and clarity to move into the dating space as yourself without having to people please or be in the nice guy camp or feel like she's out of your league. We can stop the kind of pedestaling behaviors and find someone that really is eye to eye with you that would be a good long-term match. Emotionally available, emotionally mature women. I love helping men find these women because they're out there. We're having these conversations with these women. We know they're out there. We want for you guys to find each other. So
we should set up our clients. That's really the solution,
isn't it?
If I could
be a matchmaker for our clientele,
all the EF women, all the EM men, submit up For the Love of Men podcast mixer. That'd be amazing.
We keep dreaming of it. We got merch. We got our
we're excited about these.
What are these called? Sweatshirts.
Crew necks.
We got our sweatshirts. And we are honestly, we dream about events for you guys to meet each other because it would just be so fun. And such fun conversations would be had.
Eventually.
Yeah. Side note, back to today's topic. We are moving into dating space. Last time we talked about the pre-date energy to really be in your embodied, feminine, empowered mindset before a date, what that needs to look and feel like. And now we're moving into going on the date. We got some tips. We got some myths to bust. Let's dive in. The number one thing that I often hear from my clients is not knowing how to let him, quote unquote, take the lead. Especially the driven, high-achieving woman. She's always like, I want to be in my feminine on the date, but then I get there and it's this knee-jerk reaction of, there's a reservation for 2 people under this name. And can we sit by the window? And I think we should get this for the table. And then asking him all the interview questions, right? Where did you grow up? What was your deepest trauma? Have you worked through it? Like the whole, not saying that any of this is wrong, but often in a woman's body, she wants to be able to lean back and be more in the receptive camp. But it isn't, for a lot of reasons, right? It's uncomfortable, it doesn't feel natural, right? Because it hasn't been practiced. It feels scary, it feels vulnerable, it feels uncomfortable. She does not do that. So I hope this episode helps you embrace being in your feminine more on the date, and you have some little, how do I say, like benchmarks. Guidelines, or milestones.
That you can refer back to in the moment. So in terms of leaning back, we would encourage you to think about, what does that actually look like for you? Right? Specific to you personally. What does it look like for you to lean back and to trust his masculine energy to come forward? That's the difference there.
I love that. I think one thing that's really misinterpreted when I was learning feminine energy and these phrases of like, oh, you should lean back into your feminine energy, like Cool. What does that mean?
Yeah. What does it look like?
You want me to sit back here?
You're like flipping the chair over on the
Yeah,
date.
like
Lean
way
too far.
back here.
Mhm.
I think it is actually really important to know what it does look like, but I'm hesitant to only share what it does look like because again, these are not things that you're behaving as. This is an energetic quality that allows you to be leaned back in the sense that you get to allow what's in front of you to unfold. The feminine has that relationship with time where it's like moment, 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 moment. It is like intimacy in this moment, next moment, next moment. And the more that you're in your feminine energy, the more you're just kind of like watching this thing unfold in front of you instead of like getting in there and zhuzhing it up.
Right. It's about trusting the connection and trusting his energy. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about shrinking yourself or pretending to be less. Sorry, I have a cough drop in.
Yeah, say that
Less.
again.
It's not about shrinking yourself or pretending to be less.
Mm-hmm.
Or we were saying earlier, right? Like not using your voice. It's not about, I don't want to be too much. That's how I be more feminine. No, that's a total myth.
Yep.
Because the feminine is going to be her authentic expression, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's silly, playful, bubbly, outgoing, or more like reserved, quiet, confident type, or anywhere in between. Yeah. It's about what's authentic to you. Holding the feminine pull on the date is truly like the benchmark I want in your head is I trust his empowered masculine energy to come forward. And then what happens, I'm getting a little into coach mode here, but like what happens in your body when you believe that? If I really trusted his empowered masculine energy to come forward, my body would be softening. I would physically be leaning back, but energetically I'd be leaning back because I'm trusting that he's going to come catch me.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to ask questions. He'll lead us to the table. Is there a way you can just leave a little space? And that's a practice too.
Mm-hmm.
First time I was learning to leave space, it was so awkward and uncomfortable. To leave 5 seconds felt like a year. I was like, what am I doing? There's silence. Yes, there's 2 of us. That's what I always wanted to, yes. But I would practice, like, let him be the one to fill in that space. Not because I can't or I'm not capable, but because I don't want to be in my boss lady mode right now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be my feminine queen mode. Yeah, so that's another one. You can always think, like, leave a little bit of space and allow him to come forward and fill it. What do you think about that? What would you say?
Well, it reminds me, that's what I'm working on with my dance teacher is the lag time. There's like a half a second lag time for the feminine because he is guiding you. That like split second reaction of him guiding you and you responding, you actually have to allow there to be that time. And it does feel awkward because you want to be like on beat and following and like anticipating. And it actually makes it more difficult for him to actually tell you where to go and what to do. You're not going to be looking as cohesive as a partnership, and also it's going to be difficult for him because it's kind of like forcing him to speed up. So allowing there to be space, it is difficult. It feels uncomfortable. I think the one that I see most often, at least for my female clients, is they think that being in their feminine is to kind of be a little bit okay, great example. Like men love to be helpful. Women who are wanting to practice being in their feminine on a date will like ask for help with things that she can do from a space of I can't do it instead of like I want your help. I can do it and I would like your help. Feels very different on the receiving end, I would imagine. Well, it is because we do this with each other and it feels different than like I can't open my water bottle. You know, have you seen those TikToks where she's like holding the couch up and vacuuming underneath it and he walks in and he's like having this flashback of all the times she's been like, I can't do it. Can you help me? It's not about like making him feel helpful. It's the allowing him to help, which is again, trusting that if you open space that he will step in and fill it. So.
What a testament. I love those videos because what a testament to how in your feminine you must feel with your partner if that's the case, right? If when he's not home, you're like lifting up the couch and vacuuming under. When he's home, you're like, I can't possibly. Please, can you help me?
I can't reach that bowl.
You're so deep in your feminine, and what a beautiful thing, right? Because feminine energy is never about pretending you can't do something. That's what so many women misunderstand. It's always, I can, do I want to? Or would it be nice to receive help and lean back? No one says you can't do it. We know you can. I know you can, right? We both run businesses on our own. We both are homeowners as women on our own. Like, on our own.
I was like, what is she saying?
The Dayquil. On our own. What I'm saying is we're both homeowners by ourselves and business owners by ourselves and able to do that. But in the dating relationship sphere, no. I'm cool. I want to lean back.
Yeah.
And you get to have that decision. Mm-hmm. It's up to you.
Yeah. I do also think something that was really refreshing. I go back to one of our teachers, Leah Lake. Her work is amazing. One of the things that she really integrated in her work is like, there's no amount of feminine that is feminine enough to be considered feminine. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not too masculine for your partner. I want to dispel that myth too, because I think that puts a lot of women in their wounded feminine, where obviously this is a little nuanced what I'm saying, so listen to Brie for examples. But you're not going to be too masculine if you naturally are someone that is like, ooh, can we sit by the window? That would feel really good. That can come from a very self-honoring, very empowered feminine space. It's not about you never speaking up or speaking your preferences or never taking the lead in initiating that. Like, that's self-advocacy, and that is highly empowered feminine. You advocating for what you would like requires your masculine energy, yes, but you're not going to be too masculine for your partner. He's probably gonna be like, oh, thank you, I'm so glad you said something, otherwise we'd be sitting in the corner. And nobody puts baby in the corner,
period.
So
especially not Patrick Swayze.
Oh, yeah. R.I.P. Okay.
I love that. Wait, what did you just say again? Remind.
You're not going to be too masculine for your partner by having masculine energy. It is, I always tell my clients, it's the directionality of your masculine energy on a date that is going to allow your feminine energy to express. Your masculine energy needs to be pointed like this on you. You are monitoring yourself, your inner world. You are tuned into yourself and able to sense what's happening in your own body and communicate it. If it's like this, men feel that, and that's when they say she's too masculine. It's because all of her masculine energy is directed to him.
And it feels more controlling.
It feels smothering. It feels controlling. It feels like this vice grip on his neck of like he can't do anything right. Ideally, we want to be able to, be partly with them and partly with us and be able to swivel. That's healthy.
I like the hand gesture.
That's how I teach it. It's like antennas, like which direction you're focused. We want to have the swivel. That is an empowered move. You can focus totally outside of you. If you're running a business, you're getting shit done during the day, awesome. Be focused outside. And that ability to swivel and come back in yourself, be able to talk to someone else and stay attached to yourself, highly empowered feminine.
I love that you said it's not about not telling him what you want, or like, I really want to sit by the window, but I want to be feminine, so I'm not going to say anything. That's not what it is. It's why every episode, I feel like we say the same thing. It's not about what you do. It's who you're being when you do it and the energy it comes from, right? There's a way to do the dishes that is like, get it done, masculine task mode, boom, I wash, I dishwasher, I do, boom, 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 done. There's also a way to do the dishes that's so in your feminine. You're like listening to music, you're dancing, you're present in your body, the sensation. You're like, I love my house. This feels so, I'm so relaxed. I'm just kind of flowing. It's a different embodiment and energy. So the same thing applies. And I know all of you know when you hear that example, like, yeah, I know what I'm like when I do the dishes like a chicken with my head cut off, right? And I know what I'm like when I'm relaxed and just like kind of enjoying it, ? Maybe cooking is a better example, right? Tasking through cooking or really enjoying it. The smells, the sensation, the music, you're dancing, creativity. Yeah. Sorry about my sniffles. And so it's the same thing when you're on the date. Are you saying, I want to sit by the window from this like controlling, demanding, I need to have the situation how I want it to be because number one, I don't trust him. And number two, I want it how I want it, period, kind of energy. Or is it more of a, ooh, you know what would make this like way more fun? You can even say it that way.
Yes.
Do you want to know what would be so much fun? What if we sat by the window? Then we could watch people, we could people watch the whole time. That's such a feminine invitation versus like I need to sit by the window. You know?
Yes.
Maybe you can articulate this better. Does that make sense?
No, I think that's totally it. It
Okay.
is, it's an enhancement. You're expressing your desire enhances the situation, and it's clarity for him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know many men that are going to be like, yeah, I wish she would just never tell me what she wants. The wounded men
Wounded masculine actually will.
I was going to say, let's
They'll be like,
caveat that.
perfect.
Yes.
No personality.
Yeah, the men who don't want a partner, the men who want to be in control all the time and don't want to be inconvenienced by the feminine are going to be okay with having you never speak up. That's not the men that listen to this show. That's not the men that we're talking about you want to be with. An empowered masculine man is, I always think of it, it's like co-creating. You guys are, he has enough empowered feminine energy integrated that he's creative too. And it feels like this, like, you're bringing this, I'm bringing this, and we're just like creating something that's totally magic that neither of us could have predicted. And it ends up being way more fun. And your contribution of your desire is what's giving him the insight of like, ooh, okay, and let's do this too.
Mm-hmm. You give the desire, and he's going to give the problem solving, the initiative behind it.
Let's make it happen. I think it's also really important to say not just the energy that you're in as you're expressing your desire, but thinking about who you get to be as a result of the desire can be just as important to consider. That's where I think some people get snagged. I'm going way in the nuances here. I really need to like ground into basics. But when you're expressing your desire of like, let's sit by the window because it would make me happy, that's going to be how you communicate it, of like, what is it actually like? Who do you get to be by the window that you wouldn't be in the corner?
Well said.
How do you get to express differently if you do get your way, and if it is all my way, like, because I would get to feel really happy sitting in the sun, or I would get to be so relaxed watching everyone walk by, or it would give us things to talk about, and that would be so fun. Those things are just as important to the feminine because of who you get to be as an expression. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the same as when we talk about feminine communication, right? It's about sharing what it actually provides for you. We're not just saying the thing, which we won't get into because we have to discipline ourselves.
Yes.
We have to keep some things for programs and clients, We have to.
But I think it's so important because you can't actually cherry pick these things.
Oh, facts. Man, this is my biggest pet peeve.
Go for it. Go off. I'll wait.
I'll get as far as I can without coughing.
Okay.
This idea of like, okay, so you want to be more in your feminine energy. You're scrolling TikTok, you're binging the podcast, and you're pulling out little things to try. I could say it this way. Oh, I can communicate what it does for me, right? And trying all these things is an excellent first step. Don't get me wrong. It's almost like an inevitable beginning because you're trying to see, if I change my action, can it change my result? Which is fair and logical. What's always going to be a bigger needle mover and make a bigger impact faster and easier is you actually embodying your feminine energy and knowing how to do that on your own for yourself, so that the action is naturally coming out of you instead of a thing you're trying to force. Right? So people will cherry pick, I'm going to wear a beautiful dress because that's feminine, or a beautiful perfume because that's feminine, or this certain color of red because I read that men are more attracted to it. All beautiful things, but they're additives. It's like cherries and sprinkles without the ice cream, So we have to ground into, we always say, that inner work that you just can't skip, and we couldn't explain in an episode even if we tried. It's why we have programs for it. That needs to be the main driver, and then other things become natural expression. It becomes second nature to say, do you know what would be so fun? Let's sit by the window. Instead of like, okay, how do I say this in a feminine way? I really want to sit by the window, but I don't want to be damsel in distress. I don't want to be controlling. Can we please sit by the window because it would feel fun? And it comes out sort of sideways, And it's okay. It's like it is like trying something on, but you learning to be in that energy for you.
Yeah.
To bring to the date because it's fun for you as a woman. That's the key. You have more.
Going back to How did you
I could see it in your face, like, and I'm ready, and I'm ready.
know? Put me in,
Pass
coach.
me the ball. Here's the
Okay.
ball. Go on. Or
This
go off.
goes back to he can't put you in your feminine energy. At best, a man's masculine energy allows your feminine energy to express. You have to be there on your own terms for the most masculine man to allow you to feel feminine around him. That's how that works. It's not like I need a masculine man so that I will feel feminine. We've got it backwards. I feel feminine, and therefore I am attracted to a masculine man because I get to stay in my feminine.
Mm-hmm.
He creates an environment around me that feels safe enough for me to continue expressing my desires and saying, wouldn't it feel so much more fun? Ooh, I would like to do this. What about this? I'm thinking this would be really fun. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
That energy is what a man is creating the space to evoke, not that you are dependent on each other for that. It becomes a playful dance, a playful game, if you will. I think it's so important that you said it. We can't actually cherry pick these things because this is your inner work that gets to happen in real time. And you will notice, I think something that's also really important to note is that you will notice when you're thinking of like how to say this in the feminine way, like here's what I really want to say and I want to like just choke it out. Or cough it up, like whatever I'm trying to say, I want for it to be really feminine. The more you're sitting there analyzing how to make it sound feminine, the more in your head you're getting and the less in your body you're getting, which means the tonality is going to not be very feminine, not as a criticism, but this is from experience. Like when I'm sitting there thinking, how do I want to say this in a way that is feminine that he would be able to hear? It almost always falls out of my mouth like very like clenched and like, what about if we did, instead of just like letting it flow, the things that are like inspiring you in the moment to like share them in that moment with that level of intonation and expressiveness is often, even if you're clumsy in the delivery, going to land better than if you sat there and really analyzed how to say this in a way that is in provider language and is going to call forth his masculine energy and all the like checking of the boxes.
It's such a tempting belief, isn't
it?
it?
Oh, yes.
I hear it a lot from my clients too. I just need a man masculine enough. And I'm like, all right, let's pull it back 2 steps.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that's kind of a flavor of codependency, right? I can only be feminine if I get a masculine enough man. As a feminist,
say that. Yes, I'm watching this percolate, and I'm like, go there.
I am very big on, especially with pleasure and sexuality work too, right? Your pleasure is for you. Your sexuality is for you as a woman, and who you decide to express it with, they can hold a space for it. They can amp it up. They can revel about you, and I guarantee you it will amp it up for you. But it has to be yours on your own first, because if we're believing that it comes from another person, we're always going to feel like we're out of our power or out of our agency. I know I'm a little in the weeds, but I'll bring it back around. It's like when women say, oh, I want to be with him again because he's the only one who made me feel that way. No, you made you feel that way. That came from you. No one injected you with pleasure serum. That came from you and your body. It's just how do we unlock that without him as a variable? Because it's within you. You can go there. And so it's the same thing if you're saying, I've never felt that feminine with anyone but him. Okay, but you have that in you. It's not necessarily him. It's what was happening in the environment that created that for you. What would you need more of? What qualities and characteristics worked for you about him? We want to call those in. But how can you bring that more into your life on your own as a woman? It's your feminine energy is yours. And if you try to make it like, I need him in order to be that, it's going to always feel like you're pulling on him, which isn't going to allow for polarity anyway, because you'll be sinking into your wounded feminine, pulling on him. Does that make sense?
I think you dropped the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, still right here, but
I love a good dad joke.
All right, Courtney, now you talk. I need to not cough.
I think this is critical because your trauma response is what's going to be showing up as you're dating on this date. You're going to get the reflection, the benefit. So, okay, let me back up. The gift of going on a date with a man is that his masculine energy is the grounding presence.
Mm.
If you are in the process of healing your trauma, again, we talked last time about you need to be having done enough conversation work in your head of healing the collective masculine wounding that the man in front of you gets to be a grounding space for you to be reflected in your own trauma, your tension points, the way your body responds, the way that you constrict and contort and still want to please him and want to show up as X, Y, and Z enough, is going to show up. That is on display for you. You get that information to keep working on what am I experiencing that blocks my feminine energy from being expressed? Are there qualities of types of men that really trigger me that kind of cause me to close down? Do I need to do some work with a supportive mentor to open those spaces back up so that it flows naturally for me again? Those are the things that I think dating can be such a powerful experiential healing space for. When you start to notice how your body responds, that information is gold because that is like each little key of unlocking more and more of your feminine energy. Continuing to go on dates is continuing to do that work and allow those spaces to open. Again, if you're working with a coach or a mentor of some sort, that is so helpful because you're not going to be sitting there reeling in your head and having this kind of like slingshot effect after a date. You get to stay grounded and present and work through that and then show up again even more expressed. And then you can be like, oh, you know what? I noticed that when I wanted to sit by the window, I didn't ask for it because I wanted to make sure he was comfortable. And that's still a sticky point for me. Next time I'm going to really try this growth edge for me is going to be saying, hey, it would feel really good for me to sit by the window. What do you think? That way dating gets to be like progressive. It gets to be active healing as well. You don't have to have all of your trauma healed because your trauma is going to come up in dating. Relational wounds get healed in relationships, and in order to get healed, they have to be revealed, which also means they're going to get revealed in relationships. Your skill set of being able to be with them and stay present to it and work that through and not let it keep you like jerked backwards is what's going to allow dating to be a process that moves you forward.
The benefit of this too is the more healing you do, the more ground into your empowered feminine you'll become. And then, that question of like, oh, is it me or is it him? Right? Is it my stuff or is he just not a good partner to be around, whatever it might be? That actually becomes very, very clear. The more healing work you do, particularly the more you learn to trust yourself because you've done your work. You know what happens when your wounds come up. You know what they are. You pretty much know what triggers them, and you're able to own, yeah, it's definitely mine. It's just like something about this person, whether it doesn't work for me or it's something I want to work through. But that line becomes very clear the more you're in your empowered feminine, because you'll notice, oh, this is their wounded masculine. That's why I feel controlled. It's not about me needing to soften more. I actually feel like you're going to overstep my boundary. Or it's not about me needing to be more in my feminine. It's that this guy is more in his feminine too. And that's cool. But I want somebody who's going to be coming and filling that space, right? And pursuing me too. So you stop making people wrong, number one, and it just becomes compatibility. And then holding the standard for what you want.
I love that.
That's it.
One more thing that makes me think of that is this is where mindset-wise, you get to practice real-time self-acceptance. Because I always say like self-acceptance is the secret sauce. There's not like one variable. We would love to have like the one thing you need. I would say if there is one thing, it is self-acceptance. Because when you're allowed to accept all these parts of yourself and you're allowed to be where you're at in your process of healing, you don't have to be further along to attract a really empowered masculine man. Then it becomes fun. You get to accept yourself where you're at and own the triggers as they're coming up, as you're working through them, as you're being reflected parts of yourself that you didn't realize you needed to focus on, or that were, causing issues in the past. Those might be new information points for you. And the more that you can accept where you're at, or the more you can accept where they are, instead of being like, ew, he's in his wounded feminine. Like, okay, well, that's just not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Next, those conversations get to be easy and clear because it isn't personal. That's like the most secure thing you can do, is depersonalize it. I don't think I'm a bad person for having wounds. They're coming up right now because they're mine to work on. And I don't think you're a bad person for not being very like actively forward leaning. I would like that, so I'm going to go over here.
Yeah.
That's literally the energy that it gets to be. Not like, what do I need to do to inspire his masculine energy, to ask questions? Ask yourself some questions. That might be a reflection point for you. What questions do you want to share? And can I advocate for myself a little more and just reveal that information? So many ways we can play with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. It's an important point. I feel like we've done everything we need to do in this episode.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on a date.
I mean, detachment, but we talked about that in the pre-date episode. You want to keep staying detached and keep feeling into like, is this fun for me? What's, how am I feeling? Stay attuned to yourself. That's what Courtney was saying with this gesture. Keep your empowered masculine energy on you. How am I feeling? What do I need? Am I having fun? What would help me relax more? What would help me open more? Is there a way to advocate for those things? Can I do them on my own? But really the biggest needle mover is going to be that inner you learning to embrace your feminine energy on your own in your life because it feels good for you, and not falling into the trap of, I need a partner who's masculine enough. No, he will come when you start holding the pull of the feminine.
And it will inspire the man in front of you when you choose to stay in your feminine.
Yeah. It may, or it may not.
Or it may not.
There's nothing you can do to make that happen. It has to be intrinsically motivated. Otherwise, people are it's just messy.
Yep.
Long story short, it just gets very messy and pulley.
Yep. Yeah. If he's an empowered masculine man and is waiting to see, why is she like controlling the scene? As soon as you decide, I'm actually going to be in my feminine right now, watch that person shift. Or shift the type of people that you're calling in.
I'm glad you said that, because there was a time when I believed I would do the action of, I'm going to lean back, right? Like I'm not going to text first or whatever it might be. But energetically, I'd be like this, like I'm very much wanting to control it, but very much choosing not to, which is a good step. But now, years later, my expression of, feminine energy while dating is much more like, well, what comes to me comes to me. What doesn't. I'm going to have a great time in my own life. I'll be over here. La, la, la. I'm going to go to dance. I'm going to go to Pilates. I'm going to hang out with my friends. It's such a different magnetic energy when you mean it versus when you're trying to perform it. And I don't know that there's any way to skip that step, because you're just learning what you're learning.
Yeah.
There's no shame in it. But the knowingness that you want to be moving to a place of embodiment, not acting. And the only way to do that is the inner work.
Say less.
It's all I got. So.
Oh, man. I love that.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think that's good. You're beautiful. You're perfect. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And your expression of feminine energy is stunning. Trust it. Trust his masculine energy is going to be drawn to it. That's the mindset you want to keep on a date.
Period.
It's going to keep you relaxed in your feminine energy, able to express yourself however that looks for you. Big, bold, gregarious leadership energy. Like, you can't be too masculine for an empowered masculine man. It is the willingness to reveal your authentic self. That's the caveat when I say too masculine. Keep the masculine energy facing towards you.
Love it. If you need more support and you do want to work on some of these wounds coming up, maybe you have lots of fears of abandonment or rejection, or you don't know how to trust in your innate desirability, Court and I both have obviously private coaching and courses you can come into. as well as we have the masterclasses they could jump into around navigating triggers. And what was the other one around for him emotionally, right? How to be there for him emotionally. There's one for men as well, what she's needing emotionally and how to provide it. So those are all great places to begin. You can follow us over on Instagram. We both do Instagram. I'm Building Bree Coaching, Courtney_Shand. We both are on TikTok as well. Same handles. Mine is just at Building Bree. Let us know if you have any questions that come up after the episode, because we would love to do some Q&A episodes with you guys. And we will see you next week for episode 100. What's it going to be? See you later.